Hello and welcome to today's webinar. We'll be getting started momentarily. We're going to give the viewers a chance to join. Great, and I see that the viewers have joined. Thank you again for participating in today's session. We're going to be posting this video on YouTube as soon as it's over, so you'll be able to come back and watch it as a recording. I would please ask you to ask questions in the chat if you're here watching live, and I will answer the questions as we go through the slides. I would please ask you to like the video and please subscribe to our channel so you can get notifications of our weekly webinars. So today's session, we're going to be going through a deep dive review of how to open an account at Gemini for your self-directed solo 401k. Gemini is a cryptocurrency platform which would allow you to invest your retirement money in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. So this is a very popular option, and hopefully you find this to be a very helpful session. If you're watching on a recording, you'll be able to jump ahead. As if you expand the view in YouTube, in the description, you'll be able to see in a chapter guide, we'll be able to jump ahead to certain sections. You'll be able to ask questions in the comments, and we respond to those questions generally within 24 business hours. So let's get started. Today's this slide right here goes over in depth what we're going to be discussing. So as you can see, it's an A to Z guide of how to open a self-directed solo 401k account at Gemini. We're going to talk about what is cryptocurrency, taxation considerations, just as a baseline. The how to invest or buy funds in a solo 401k, establishing and funding a solo 401k, really an in-depth review of Gemini's application process, so how to open a solo 401k account at Gemini, and other practical tips around storage and just buying cryptocurrency. So as a baseline here, what is cryptocurrency? So if you look at IRS Revenue Ruling 2019-24, they define it there as virtual currency. Popular cryptocurrencies are going to be Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin. The IRS views cryptocurrency as property for federal tax purposes. So outside of a retirement account, that has certain implications. Specifically, when you sell cryptocurrency, it's going to be subject to capital gains tax rates, short-term or long-term as applicable. Inside of a retirement account, just like any gains or losses, those are going to be tax deferred. So if you're buying and selling cryptocurrency, it's generally going to be tax deferred and even potentially tax free in the case of a Roth solo 401k. Now, one potential exception here is if you're investing your solo 401k funds in mining cryptocurrency. In that situation, the income generated may be subject to unrelated business income tax if the mining is considered an active trade or business. So now let's turn to the steps to invest solo 401k funds in cryptocurrency. So let's again set the baseline with just the general steps. So in order to set up a solo 401k, you need to qualify for a solo 401k, which means in simple terms, you need to be self-employed with no full-time W-2 employees working for you. You would adopt a solo 401k, specifically a solo 401k from a provider that's going to allow you to invest in alternative investments such as cryptocurrency. You need to open a solo 401k bank account, fund the bank account, which you can do with either making contributions or rolling money over from a pre-existing retirement account, like a former employer plan or non-Roth IRA. And then finally, you would transfer the funds from the bank account to the cryptocurrency exchange account so that you can buy and sell the cryptocurrency. So these next few slides are going to dig a little deeper on that quick overview. So again, qualifying for a solo 401k means you need to have a business. You need to be self-employed. So that would be somebody like an independent contractor or a sole proprietor. You don't necessarily have to have a formal entity for your business. You could have an LLC, you could have a partnership, you could have an S corporation. You also cannot have any full-time W-2 employees working for you or a business owned by your spouse. You need to adopt the plan. So look for a provider who offers a plan that allows for investing in cryptocurrency and then has experience and support so they can walk you through the mechanics of actually opening an account and funding that account and then buying the cryptocurrency. You do need to open a solo 401k bank account. So this would be a bank account at the bank of your choice that's opened up under the name of the 401k and under the EIN of the 401k. So for our customers, we of course have the plan. We prepare a packet that you would use to open that account. We obtain an EIN number from the IRS, which is specifically for your 401k. And then we would be there to speak to your banker on the phone, or we also can put you in touch with bankers or banks that specialize in opening up an accounts or for a solo 401k. So you can go with your local bank, or we can make the introduction and help you get it set up. You need to fund that account. So you can fund the account. If you have an existing brokerage account for your solo 401k, it could come just as a sub-account to sub-account transfer. If you're making contributions, you would need to do so based on your self-employment income, within the limits, by the deadline, all of the important contribution rules that apply, subject to all those important contribution rules. Or you could fund it by transferring money. Let's say you had a former employer plan, or you have a non-Roth IRA. I say non-Roth IRA because you cannot transfer money from a Roth IRA to any type of 401k, including a solo 401k. And then once the money's in that solo 401k bank account, separately on a parallel path, you would have been opening up an account at a cryptocurrency exchange like Gemini. And then you transfer the money from that bank account to the cryptocurrency exchange account. It's important to mention the bank account, as opposed, in terms of funding the cryptocurrency account, generally based on experience, there can be issues when you try to transfer from a solo 401k brokerage account to an account at an exchange. Sometimes the brokerage firms won't let the funds go out. And the cryptocurrencies are going to require that the funding account, the name on the funding account matches the name on the account at the exchange. So those are reasons why you would want to have a bank account. And then also, as you'll see as we get a little further in this presentation, when it comes to storage. So if you want to store the physical wallet, you can do so in the safety deposit box associated with that bank account. And I see we've got some questions, so I appreciate you taking the time to ask those questions. So let's knock those questions out, and then we'll come back to the next slide. And thank you so much for the positive feedback. So there you go. This gentleman had opened his account at Wells for a solo 401k, and that's Wells is a good option. In terms of the minimum amount to fund, there is no minimum amount to fund your solo 401k. Sometimes, of course, a bank will, just like opening any bank account, a bank will impose a minimum balance requirement. Of course, you need to have money to invest, right? So if you don't have any money in a pre-existing account that you want to roll over, then your only way that you're going to be able to fund the account is contributions. You may not be able to justify a relatively high contribution amount. And then, of course, that's where you're going to be limited when it comes to investing in the cryptocurrency. So good questions. Hopefully that helped. So here we're highlighting some of the tidbits, which we already talked about to a degree in the prior slides. But again, just to emphasize, because they are important, that when you open up the account, whether it's the account at the bank account or the account at the crypto exchange, you need to use the EIN for the solo 401k. That EIN is specifically for the plan, and the IRS understands that that EIN is associated with a tax-deferred entity. So that's part of the reason that it's so important. To the extent that the cryptocurrency exchange or the bank is doing any tax reporting, the IRS will do that tax reporting under that EIN, and therefore the IRS will understand that this gain is inside of a 401k and therefore tax deferred. You open it in the name of the solo 401k. You store the cryptocurrency. If you're going to store it in a physical wallet as opposed to on the exchange, you would need to store it in the safety deposit box associated with that account. And then finally, of course, you don't commingle with personal funds. You have a separate wallet, separate bank account. So you're buying and selling cryptocurrency in an account that's separate than in an account that you might be buying and selling cryptocurrency, your personal funds in. So now let's turn to the Gemini account application. So to get started at Gemini, you need to go to their institutional section of their website, which we have the URL here posted on this slide. And then we've got some screenshots here. So this is what that page looks like. You're going to enter the name of your solo 401k on the legal business name field. You're going to choose personal or private investment vehicle. You're going to enter your name, email address, and location. You hit continue, then you go to the next screen and you download the institutional account application. So now we've got some screenshots of that institutional account application. So of course it's a much bigger document and you'll take a look at some of those disclosures, but here's the pages where you have to enter information. So the first section is going to ask for company information. Here you're going to enter the name of the solo 401k in the field for full legal company name. It doesn't, of course, the solo 401k, it doesn't have a DBA. Moving down the page, you're going to enter the address of the solo 401k. Typically, that's your address. You enter the state as the jurisdiction. You enter the state of the solo 401k address. Typically, that's your state. Enter your phone number in the phone field. You enter for the date of incorporation, you're going to pull up your adoption agreement. That's typically going to be on page 2 of the adoption agreement. For example, for our customers, it's going to be the original effective date of the solo 401k is listed there. So enter that. Those next couple of questions, CRD, MPID, etc., those are not applicable. So you can move past that and on to the contact person information section, where you're going to enter your name, phone, and email as the principal contact person. So moving on to farther into the application, there's a business activity information section. So the first field in that section asks for the nature of the business company, or nature of the business of the company, excuse me. You're going to enter in that field simply solo 401k plan investment account. It then asks for the company website. So you'll skip that section, skip that question, and on to the next question where it asks about associations. Here you would complete it if applicable. So for example, if you have a non-retirement account at Gemini, you could make the association in this field. The next question asks if the company will be linking a bank account from any jurisdiction other than the jurisdiction of a corporation. Well, on the prior page, we defined the jurisdiction of incorporation as your state, or the state of the solo 401k address, which is typically your state. So if the bank account for the solo 401k is in the same state, you would simply enter no. Otherwise, enter the applicable state. For those next set of questions, the answer is going to be no for each question. So answer no and then move on. The next slide here, the first question asks whether or not the company is required to register as a money transmitter or a money service business. The answer is no. It then asks to explain how this determination was made. Here you would explain that the sole purpose of the solo 401k plan is to invest my own retirement funds. The next question asks whether or not the plan is required to establish and maintain a BSA or AML program. The answer is no. The next question asks you to enter the state of the solo 401k address, unless you live, or excuse me, it asks you to enter the jurisdiction of the business activity. So again, if your state where you live is the same state as the solo 401k address state, then you would just enter that same state. If that's not the case, then you will enter the state where you live. So another way to say this would be is if you live in a state other than the state of your solo 401k address, enter the state where you live. You would then go on to the next set of questions where you'll just answer those to the best of your ability in terms of trading volume, funding activity, and funding patterns. Moving through the application and moving on, then we turn to the authorized user section. Well, that's you. So you're going to enter your personal information. As far as your role and description, enter trustee. Now note, there may be more than one authorized user. An example would be if you have multiple trustees. An example if you have a husband and wife that are both working in the business, and they're both therefore trustees of the plan. So in that situation, each person would complete the authorized user section. Then we move on to the beneficial owners section. So you want to complete the beneficial owners individual section. Note there at the bottom that there's a beneficial owners entity section. Here, the solo 401k funds are not held for the benefit of an entity. They're held for the benefit of an individual, you. So you need to enter your information here. And so most of the questions here are self-explanatory. In terms of the percentage of beneficial ownership, you would complete it for your benefit and enter 100% unless it's held for the benefit, unless the solo 401k is really for the 2 or more persons, in which case you would enter the relative ownership percentage. So if it's husband and wife and each person has the same amount of funds in the plan, then it would be 50-50. We're almost to the end of this application, and now we're starting to sign. So there's one section to sign referred to as the sanctions representation. Here you would enter your name, you would enter the title as trustee, and then you would sign and date. There's another section that needs to be signed, the agreement section. Same thing, you would enter your name, enter trustee, sign and date. So that takes us to the end of the application. So Gemini does require additional information. So the first thing they're going to require is identification. So you could provide your passport or a state-issued ID card for each beneficial owner and authorized signer. You would also want to make sure you're providing the date of birth and the social security number. You're going to need to provide a copy of the trust agreement or certification of trust. This is included with the solo 401k establishment documents, and the certification of trust is going to be included with the bank account opening packet. You're going to need to provide a W-9 form. So on that W-9 form, you're going to use the EIN of the plan, which is included in the solo 401k establishment documents. And we have another page here where we give more information about how to complete the W-9. And then finally, and we'll look at the W-9 information in the next slide. And finally, you want to provide information around the source of the funds, the source of wealth. So here you would provide a copy of the solo 401k bank account statement. It would also be, if applicable, it would be helpful to include a statement that you save the funds as an employee or a self-employed person, the related documents. It could be a screenshot of your LinkedIn profile, a membership in a professional association. Let's say that you're a doctor, for example, and you're working as an independent contractor. Okay, so moving on, we're now completing the W-9 form. So and you can find this on our website, but we've got it here on this slide. So in the first box in the W-9, you enter the name of the solo 401k. The example here is Go Chargers Trust. You check the box in front of other, enter retirement trust. You then complete the address for the plan. You enter your city and state here. You're going to move down and you're going to enter the EIN for the solo 401k in the tax identification number section. And then you sign as the trustee and make sure you date it as well. Okay, great. And so then you would go ahead and submit that. Once you complete that initial section of the website from which you download the institutional application, they will email you and give you an opportunity to provide all this paperwork. So historically, the processing time has been approximately 2 weeks. At the time now that we're recording this, based on customer feedback, those processing times have definitely gone up. So hopefully Gemini, and it's probably just a function of the tax season, et cetera. Hopefully Gemini will be able to reduce those processing times soon and work through that uptick in applications. But that's the general processing time. As far as funding the account, of course, you're going to be funding it with fiat money, so US dollars. And that goes back to the bank account. So it's going to be funded from that solo 401k bank account. Again, we highlight here that the name of the funding account must match either the name of the trust or one of the beneficial owners, provided that they have been expressly authorized to act on behalf of the account. So technically you could fund it from your personal account. For example, if you were making contributions, based on experience though, and in the long run, it's going to be helpful though to have that solo 401k bank account, for example, because you wouldn't be able to store a physical wallet in a safety deposit box associated with your name. You'll have to have it in a safety deposit box associated with the solo 401k bank account. And Gemini does support sub-accounts. You would do sub-accounts, for example, if you were having multiple people invest their solo 401k funds, back to our husband and wife situation, or if you've got multiple types of funds, let's say you have pre-tax and Roth. Okay, here we got some feedback as well on everyone's current processing time. So thanks for sharing that feedback. Now we'll turn and talk about practical tips of investing solo 401k funds in cryptocurrency. So just to emphasize, some of these we've talked about to a degree. You know, you're opening the account under the name and EIN of the solo 401k, and we talked about some of the reason why. It goes back to the tax reporting. Separate accounts for multiple participants or types of funds. So pre-tax or Roth is a good example. Funding the account, you know, you of course, then this is general tips. When you're picking a cryptocurrency exchange, you want to pick one that is going to allow you to fund it with dollars, right? Some of these exchanges won't allow you to fund the account with US dollars. Gemini, of course, will. You, again, will wire the money from an account that names, or you could ACH it from a bank account that's going to be in the name of the solo 401k. You would, of course, have separate transfers. So you would have separate bank accounts for the solo 401k if you've got two participants. So each participant's going to transfer their own money from their own solo 401k bank account to their own account at the cryptocurrency exchange. And then lastly here, we talk about private transactions. So this would really be outside of the context of an exchange. So if you are buying cryptocurrency in a private transaction outside of the context of an exchange, and you will make sure that you're buying the cryptocurrency from someone who's not a disqualified person to ensure that you don't commit a prohibited transaction. And of course, you want to make sure you're not combining or tying the transaction with non-retirement transactions. So if you're trying to buy cryptocurrency from someone using your personal money, your non-retirement money, you certainly would not want to tie that to an investment that you're making with your solo 401k funds. And I see we got some comments there. I don't quite understand the first part of the question, but I think we're just asking to confirm that that storage of physical wallet, just to talk more about that. So really it goes back to deducing what the regulators, of course, the regulators have not, they are trailing in terms of anytime you have a new investment area, the regulators are always the market's always going to be ahead of where the regulators are in terms of the rules, right? But we can analogize from what you can do when it comes to, for example, investing in precious metals. So you cannot store precious metals at your house. So likewise, it wouldn't be appropriate to store a physical wallet for cryptocurrency at your house. So that's where storage of the physical wallet in a safety deposit box in a bank account or associated with a bank account in the name of the solo 401k is going to make sense and be consistent where the regulators would likely end up. And that actually takes us to the ends of our presentation. So please don't hesitate to ask more questions. We do have more time, and I appreciate everyone's participation. Please, I would again ask you to like the video and subscribe for more videos like this. If you'll be able to jump ahead if you're watching on a recording to different sections. You can ask questions in the comments if you're watching it as a recording. And I don't see any more comments or questions. So thank you again for everyone's participation. We appreciate it. Take care.